The cafeteria line moved quickly, and Lily's heart pounded with each step forward. Her shoes were worn, her uniform a little faded, signs she tried to hide beneath quiet smiles. She had transferred to this new school 2 weeks ago, and already she'd learned to eat alone, speak softly, and disappear into corners. Today, she hoped no one would notice her counting every coin before ordering. Behind the counter, a tired-looking lunch lady gave her a sympathetic smile. "What can I get you, sweetheart?" Lily glanced at the glowing menu above. Burger, $6.50. Sandwich, $5.75. Small fries, $3. Her throat tightened. She unfolded the bill again, one last time, as if staring longer might make it multiply. Can I just get a water?" she whispered. The woman hesitated. "That's all." Lily nodded, her eyes fixed on the floor. She could feel stares from a few students nearby, the kind that sting even when they don't mean to. One boy snickered. Another whispered something she couldn't quite hear. She turned away, clutching a plastic cup, and searched for an empty seat. The cafeteria buzzed with laughter, but her corner felt like silence wrapped in noise. She tried to sip slowly, pretending it was enough. Across the room, at the long table near the windows, a group of seniors laughed over their phones. Among them sat Ethan, calm, confident, dressed in simple but expensive clothes. No one would have guessed he was the son of one of the city's wealthiest families. He hated that label. Money had never felt like power to him. It felt like a weight. He looked up just as Lily passed by, thin, pale, her backpack hanging loose. Something in her expression stopped him mid-sentence. She wasn't sad. She looked invisible, forgotten by a world too busy eating to notice hunger that wasn't loud. "Ethan, you good?" his friend Michael asked, snapping him back. "Yeah," he murmured, eyes following Lily as she sat down. She placed her cup on the table and rested her head on her arm. The water rippled slightly as her hand trembled. He didn't know her name, but something in that image, a girl with nothing but $5 and pride strong enough to keep her silent, pulled at him. Without overthinking, Ethan stood and walked to the counter. "Hey, could I get an extra lunch tray?" he asked. The lunch lady smiled. "Sure thing. Want me to charge it to your account?" He nodded. "Yeah. And, could you not say who it's for?" Minutes later, he carried the tray toward Lily's table. She didn't see him until he set it down in front of her, a full meal, burger, fries, milk, and a cookie on the side. Her eyes widened. I didn't order this." "I know," Ethan said softly, his voice steady but warm. "I just thought maybe you forgot." She looked up, confused. "Why would you do that?" He smiled faintly. "Because I've been there before. Maybe not hungry like that, but lost like that." Lily froze, unsure whether to feel embarrassed or grateful. "I can't take this. I don't have—" "You don't need to pay me back," he interrupted gently. "Just eat, please." For a moment, her pride battled her hunger. Then, quietly, she whispered, "Thank you." He sat across from her, pretending to scroll through his phone, giving her space. She took a small bite of the burger, then another, until her hands stopped shaking. From afar, a few students watched, whispering again, but this time Ethan didn't care. And strangely, neither did she. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest. Comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just hit like to prove that compassion still matters. Lily looked up once more, meeting Ethan's eyes. For the first time that day, she smiled, a fragile kind of smile, but real. Outside, the rain had stopped. The cafeteria windows glistened with sunlight breaking through the clouds, painting golden streaks across the tables. It wasn't just lunch anymore. It was something she hadn't felt in a long time. Kindness. And kindness, once it touches someone, never really leaves. But that was only the beginning. The days that followed didn't change much on the outside. Same cafeteria, same crowd, same noise. But for Lily, something invisible had shifted. She still sat at her usual table. But now, each time she did, a quiet warmth lingered in the memory of that one unexpected kindness. Ethan hadn't told anyone about what he'd done. Not because it was secret, but because he didn't see it as heroic. He simply couldn't shake the image of that girl with the trembling hands. Every day since, he noticed the small things. The way she carried a worn-out sketchbook, the way she smiled at the janitor each morning, the way her eyes darted toward the vending machine but never stayed long enough to buy anything. One afternoon, as the final bell rang, Ethan found himself walking slower than usual, waiting near the school gates. The sun was setting, painting long shadows across the street. Then he saw her again, walking alone, backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds dangling but no music playing. "Hey!" he called softly. Lily turned, startled. "Oh, hi." He jogged a little to catch up. "You, left your notebook in the cafeteria." He held up the sketchbook, the corners bent, pages marked with pencil smudges. Her eyes widened. "Oh my God, I thought I lost it. Thank you." Ethan smiled. "You draw?" She nodded shyly. "Yeah, just stuff. Helps me forget things for a while." They walked in silence for a bit, the sounds of traffic humming around them. "Do you live far?" he asked. "Just a few blocks," she said quietly. "With my mom. She works late, so I usually walk alone." Ethan hesitated before asking, "You okay? I mean, things seem tough." Lily bit her lip. "They are, but I'm used to it. My mom lost her job last year. I'm trying to help out where I can. I work weekends at a diner." She paused, then smiled faintly. "So, yeah, I guess $5 lunches are kind of a big deal." He nodded, the weight of her words settling deep inside him. "You know, I didn't help you because I felt sorry. I saw someone brave enough not to ask for help. That's rare." Her eyes met his, uncertain but grateful. "Thanks. Not many people see that." They reached the crosswalk, and she stopped. "This is me," she said, pointing toward a small, worn-down apartment complex at the corner. He glanced at the building, noticing the cracked steps, the faded paint. "Hey, Lily." She looked back, surprised he remembered her name. "You ever think about what you'd do if money wasn't a problem?" he asked. Her smile flickered with something distant. "I'd paint. Every day. I'd show people the way colors can tell stories." He grinned softly. "Then maybe one day you should." As she disappeared into the building, Ethan stood there for a long moment. The city lights flickered on one by one, and in that glow, he made a quiet promise. He wasn't going to let the story end as another forgotten act of kindness. The next day, he called someone he rarely spoke to, his father. The man was always busy, caught between meetings, business trips, and silence. But Ethan asked for a favor, a simple one. "Dad, do you still fund those youth art programs?" His father's tone softened. "Yes, why?" "I know someone who needs a chance. Just one." That conversation set off a ripple that neither Lily nor Ethan could have predicted. The following week, a notice appeared on the school bulletin board. Local art contest. Winner receives full scholarship to Art Academy. Lily saw it between classes. Her heart skipped. She hadn't painted in months. Supplies were too expensive. But that night, she dusted off her old brushes, tore open her sketchbook, and let color bleed into the paper again. Her room glowed under a flickering lamp as she painted the cafeteria scene, herself holding a cup of water and a boy placing a tray in front of her. She called it the meal of kindness. When she submitted it, she didn't expect anything. Just closure. Days passed. Then one morning, the principal's voice echoed through the hallway speakers. "And the winner of the city's art scholarship, Lily Hart." Her brush fell from her hand. The world seemed to blur. She covered her mouth, eyes wide, heart pounding. Across the room, Ethan was watching from the doorway, smiling quietly as applause filled the hall. "Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Write yes, and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think." Lily rushed outside after class, holding the award letter in trembling hands. Ethan leaned against the wall, pretending not to expect her. "You knew," she said breathlessly. "Didn't you?" He shrugged with a half-smile. "Maybe I made a call. Maybe you just deserved it." Tears welled in her eyes, but she laughed through them. You changed everything. Ethan looked away, his voice low. No, Lily, you did. And in that fragile moment, under the golden sunset, a new story began, one neither of them saw coming. The scholarship ceremony took place a week later in the school auditorium, packed with students, parents, and teachers. The stage lights glowed against the dark curtains as Lily stood there, still clutching a certificate, trying to believe this was real. Her hand shook slightly, not from fear but from the shock of being seen, truly seen, for the first time in a long while. She looked out at the crowd. Somewhere in the back row, she spotted Ethan, not sitting with his friends, not with his phone out, just quietly watching. When their eyes met, he gave her a small nod, as if to say, "You earned this." After the event, Lily walked outside, where the cool evening air wrapped around her like a breath of relief. She didn't even notice the news reporters at first. Local stations had shown up because one of the sponsors of the contest was none other than Ethan's father, Richard Cole, a well-known philanthropist and billionaire entrepreneur. That realization hit her like a quiet thunder. So that was it. Ethan's world wasn't just comfortable, it was unreachable. She stood on the edge of the parking lot, watching him talk briefly with his father near a sleek black car. They looked so different, yet there was something in Ethan's posture, a quiet defiance, like he was tired of the glitter that came with his name. When he spotted Lily standing there, he walked over. "Congrats, artist," he said, smiling softly. She laughed nervously. "You didn't tell me who your dad was." He shrugged. Would it have changed anything? Probably not, she admitted. But it explains a lot. Ethan looked up at the sky, hands in his pockets. He always says money can't fix everything. But sometimes it can start something. Lily tilted her head. "You believe that?" He met her gaze. "I didn't. Not until I met you." Something heavy and unspoken hung between them. Admiration, maybe even something deeper. But before either could say more, Richard Cole approached. His presence carried quiet authority, the kind that made people straighten instinctively. "You must be Lily," he said warmly, extending his hand. "Ethan told me about your art. It's remarkable." Lily shook his hand, nervous but steady. "Thank you, sir. It means a lot." "I'm glad you applied," Richard continued. "There's something special in your work. It's honest." He glanced at Ethan. "Seems my son has an eye for talent and heart." Ethan rolled his eyes, muttering, "Dad," under his breath. Richard chuckled. "I'll let you two talk. Lily, I hope the scholarship opens doors for you." When he walked away, Lily turned to Ethan, still processing it all. "You told him about me?" "Yeah," he admitted. He didn't believe one act of kindness could change someone's path. "I wanted him to see it could." Her throat tightened. "Ethan, I don't know how to thank you." "You just did," he said quietly. They stood in silence, the kind that didn't need filling. Around them, the world buzzed. Cars, laughter, the fading sound of applause. But in that still moment, both of them knew something bigger than luck had brought them together. That night, Lily sat by her window, staring at the city lights. Her art supplies were spread across the table, new ones, gifted by the Academy along with her scholarship. For the first time in months, she felt something powerful bloom inside her. Hope? She opened her sketchbook to a blank page and began to draw again, not sadness this time, but gratitude. The strokes were softer, the colors warmer. She painted Ethan under the rain, holding a tray of food. The same rain that once hid her tears now shimmered like silver. Her mother peeked in, her eyes tired but proud. "Sweetheart, that's beautiful." Lily smiled. "It's the first thing I painted that doesn't hurt to look at." Her mother kissed her forehead. "Keep that boy close. Not many hearts like that in this world." And for once, Lily didn't disagree. The next morning, something unexpected happened. Her painting, The Meal of Kindness, had gone viral. The Academy had shared it on their social media page, and within hours, thousands of people had reposted it with comments like "Faith in humanity restored," and "A single act can change everything." Lily couldn't believe it. Her story, their story, was spreading across the world. Meanwhile, Ethan watched the same post on his phone, sitting in his car before school. His father had forwarded it to him with a single message: "You were right." He smiled, shaking his head. For once, it wasn't about money, fame, or headlines. It was about something real. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. By the end of the day, news outlets were calling Lily the girl who painted kindness. She laughed when she heard it, not because of the fame, but because for once, kindness wasn't just a quiet thing that went unnoticed. And though neither of them could see it yet, this was only the calm before life's next test, one that would shake both their worlds in ways they never imagined. The following month felt like a dream Lily couldn't quite wake from. The Art Academy sent her official admission papers, local media kept reaching out for interviews, and her teachers now looked at her with a kind of gentle admiration that once seemed impossible. But with every new spotlight came a shadow, whispers, envy, and judgment. At school, not everyone saw her as the girl who painted kindness. Some just saw a charity case who'd gotten lucky. She probably didn't even paint it herself. One girl sneered by the lockers. Bet that billionaire boy did it for her. Lily tried to ignore them, but words had a way of sticking. Ethan noticed a shift too, how she walked faster through the halls, avoided crowds, and kept her sketch bit closer than ever. One afternoon, he found her sitting alone in the art room, staring at a blank canvas. "You haven't drawn in days," he said softly, stepping inside. She didn't look up. "Maybe I've run out of things to paint." "That's not true." He pulled up a chair beside her. "You're just scared. Fame does that. People twist good things until they look like lies." Lily sighed, rubbing her temples. "It's just, they don't know me, Ethan. They don't know what it's like to feel small every day. I'm not used to being seen." He leaned forward, his voice gentle. "Then let them see who you really are. Not the girl they whisper about, the girl who paints truth." She smiled faintly. "You always know what to say." "Maybe because I know what it's like to be seen for the wrong reasons," he replied. "People think being rich means being happy. But money can't buy peace. You taught me that." For a long moment, neither spoke. The room smelled faintly of acrylic paint and rain, that same strange comfort that followed them since the day they met. Then Lily stood up. "You know what? I think I'll paint something new tonight." "Good," Ethan said, smiling. "Just promise you won't stop, no matter what they say." She looked at him, eyes full of quiet determination. "I won't." That night, she painted a storm. Not on a canvas, but on her soul. Colors of gray, violet, and blue twisted into something raw and alive, a reflection of her battles, her hunger, her hope. She titled it "The Noise and the Stillness." The next morning, she took a picture and uploaded it online with a short caption: "When the world gets loud, paint your silence." Within hours, it began spreading. People shared it not because it was pretty, but because it was real. Her art became a voice for thousands who felt unseen. Kids who couldn't afford dreams, single parents fighting through nights, and strangers who'd almost given up. But while the world saw inspiration, something inside Lily was still trembling. Success didn't erase old pain. It only gave it new shapes. A few days later, she received a message from an unknown account. "You don't deserve what you have. Stop pretending." The words made her chest tighten. More followed, cruel, faceless messages accusing her of lying, manipulating, and using Ethan for fame. She closed the phone, her breath uneven. By the time Ethan called that evening, she didn't answer. He texted instead, "You okay? Haven't seen you around." Her reply came hours later. "Just tired. Need space." Ethan frowned, sensing something deeper. But he decided to give her time, something he'd later regret. 3 days passed. Then the news broke. Lily's account had been hacked. Her private sketches leaked online with captions twisted to mock her. Social media tore her apart, accusing her of pity art, calling her fake. The same people who once cheered her now turned cruel. And when Ethan saw her name trending for all the wrong reasons, his chest burned with anger and guilt. He drove straight to her apartment, ignoring his father's calls. When Lily opened the door, her eyes were red, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't do anything wrong, Ethan," she said, trembling. Why does it feel like I did? He took her hands. Because people hate what they don't understand. But you're not alone in this. Not now. Not ever. Tears rolled down her cheeks, and for the first time, she didn't try to hide them. If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart hash. Sometimes one little symbol says what our hearts can't. That night, Ethan made a decision. He called his father again, not for help, but for something bigger. "Dad," he said, his voice steady, "you always said stories change lives. Then help me tell one that shows what kindness really looks like." Richard listened quietly. "What are you planning, son?" Ethan smiled faintly. A truth the internet can't twist. And as dawn crept through Lily's window, a new kind of light began to rise, the kind born not from wealth or fame, but from the courage to stand when the world tries to break you. 2 days later, the school auditorium was full again, cameras, teachers, students, and local reporters buzzing like restless bees. But this time, it wasn't for a contest. Ethan had arranged something quietly, using his father's connections and his own conviction. When Lily arrived, confused by the sudden announcement, she saw a banner on the stage that read, "The Power of a Small Act." Ethan stood at the podium, dressed simply, no shoot, no spotlight, just honesty in his eyes. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice calm but firm. "I want to share a story. Not about fame or money, but about kindness." Lily froze in the back row. Her fingers gripped her sleeve as he spoke. Some months ago, a girl walked into this cafeteria with only $5. She thought no one saw her. But I did. And that one small moment, just offering her a meal, changed my life more than haze. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Phones lifted to record. Ethan continued, "Her name is Lily Hart. She's not just an artist. She's a reminder that grace survives even when the world turns cruel. And those of you sending hate, you're missing the truth. Her art isn't about pity. It's about resilience." He paused, scanning the room until his eyes found hers. Lily didn't need saving. She reminded me what it means to be human. Silence fell over the auditorium, thick, emotional, raw. Lily's eyes filled with tears. The student who'd whispered behind her now stayed, guilt softening their faces. Then Ethan did something no one expected. He stepped aside, motioning toward the stage. "Lily," he said softly, "this story was never mine to finish. It's yours." Her heart pounded as she walked forward, each step heavy but sure. When she reached the microphone, her voice trembled at first, then steadied. "I never wanted attention," she said. "I just wanted to feel like I belonged. When Ethan helped me that day, it wasn't about food. It was about being seen, for who I was, not what I had." She glanced at the crowd, tears catching in the light. People think kindness has to be grand. It doesn't. Sometimes it's a meal, a smile, a chance. And sometimes it's defending someone when the world doesn't. The audience grew still, the tension breaking into warmth. Teachers nodded. Students looked down, and even the reporters lowered their cameras. Be honest. Could you forgive after what they did? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply. Lily took a shaky breath, smiling faintly. "I forgive them," she said softly, voice cracking, "because hate only grows where kindness stops." Applause began, hesitant at first, then growing until it filled the hall. Ethan watched from the side, pride gleaming in his eyes. After the event, she found him outside under the old oak tree where students like to eat lunch. The autumn leaves fell around them, golden and slow. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "I did," he said simply. "You stood alone long enough." She looked down, her voice breaking. "You made everyone see me again." Ethan smiled gently. "No, Lily, you made them feel. I just reminded them why." The tension that had once lived in her shoulders melted. For the first time in months, she felt light, not because everything was fixed, but because she no longer carried it alone. Later that evening, a video of Ethan's speech and Lily's confession went viral, millions of views overnight. But this time, the comments weren't cruel. They were full of empathy, gratitude, and reflection. "I cried watching this. Faith in humanity restored again." Forgiveness is the strongest art. And somewhere in the sea of messages was one from a name Lily didn't recognize. You don't know me, but your story stopped me from doing something terrible tonight. Thank you for reminding me the world still has good people. Lily read it 3 times before tears blurred the screen. Her pain had somehow become someone else's reason to keep going. She looked up at the night sky, stars faint behind city light, and whispered, maybe this was a purpose all along. When Ethan called her that night, they didn't talk about fame or the past. They talked about the future, art exhibits, charity projects, ways to help other kids like her. It was no longer about a rich boy helping a poor girl. It was 2 souls healing through kindness. If you believe love still wins, comment Amen. Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. And as the world slowly moved on, their story didn't fade. It evolved. From rumor to lesson, from shame to strength. But destiny, as always, had one last test, a moment that would either shatter them or prove that kindness truly conquers everything. The morning after the viral speech, Ethan woke up to a flood of notifications, messages from strangers thanking him, business leaders offering donations to art programs, and journalists asking for interviews. But none of that mattered to him. All he cared about was making sure Lily was okay. When he called, she didn't answer right away. Then came a soft hey, her voice small, tired, but calm. Did you see the video? He asked. I did, she whispered. I cried through the whole thing. You didn't have to, he said gently. It was just the truth. She laughed softly. Sometimes the truth is the hardest thing to hear. There was silence on the line. Then she said, Ethan, I've been thinking. What if we use this, all of this, to help others? Kids who can't afford to dream like I almost couldn't. His eyes brightened. You mean start something? Yeah, she replied. An art foundation. Free classes, mentorships, supplies. A place where no one feels invisible. Ethan smiled. Lily, that's brilliant. Not mine, she said. It's ours. Over the next few weeks, the 2 worked side by side, designing, planning, calling sponsors. Ethan's father helped with the legal side, but he made sure to stay in the background, letting them lead. They named it the Silver Tray Project, inspired by the cafeteria moment that changed everything. Soon, murals began to bloom across the city, painted by young artists funded by their foundation. Each one carried a message of hope, of small acts that ripple into lives. One mural near the school showed a girl holding a paper cup while light poured through a cafeteria window. Beneath it, in soft gold letters, it read, Kindness begins where judgment ends. Every time Lily passed it, she smiled, not because it was about her, but because it wasn't just about her anymore. However, beneath the glow of success, a storm quietly brewed again. Ethan's father began receiving calls from investors, people uncomfortable with a billionaire's son running a charity with a poor girl. Old money circles didn't like blurred lines. At dinner one night, Richard sighed. Ethan, I admire what you're doing, but you're attracting the wrong kind of attention. People are asking questions. Ethan frowned. What kind of questions? Questions about your future, his father replied. About her. About you and her. Ethan set down his fork, irritation flashing across his face. Dad, Lily isn't a headline. She's the reason I actually care about something real. Richard exhaled. I know, son, I do, but the world isn't kind to stories like yours. Then maybe the world needs to change, Ethan said sharply, standing. That night, he drove to Lily's apartment, heart pounding with frustration and fear. When she opened the door, she saw it in his face. What happened? He hesitated. People are talking. My dad's worried. They think we're just some charity act. That I'm trying to. Play the hero, she finished softly. He looked down. Yeah. Lily's expression softened. Ethan, let them talk. We know the truth. You don't owe them explanations. I just don't want you to get hurt again, he said, his voice cracking slightly. You've been through enough. She stepped closer, her hand brushing his. You can't protect me from the world. You can only stand with me against it. He looked at her, really looked. And in that moment, everything else fell away. The city, the gossip, the noise. It was just two people who'd found light in each other's darkness. I'm not letting them destroy this, he whispered. What we built, what you built. She smiled faintly. Then don't fight the world. Change it with me. Outside, rain began to fall again, soft, steady, like the first night they met. They stood at the window, watching droplets race down the glass, reflections of 1,000 tiny stars in motion. And maybe, just maybe, the universe was reminding them, storms don't end stories, they deepen them. If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind. One click can be a way of saying, I felt you. As weeks turned into months, the Silver Tray Project became more than a foundation. It became a movement. Schools joining in, artists donating, people sharing stories of small kindnesses that changed their lives. And through it all, Ethan and Lily stood side by side, not as savior and save, but as proof that compassion could bridge worlds no amount of wealth ever could. But fate, ever unpredictable, wasn't done with them yet. Because sometimes, even the brightest hearts are tested not by hate, but by loss. It was supposed to be a normal Saturday. Their foundation was hosting its first citywide art fair, a celebration of everything they'd built. The plaza buzzed with laughter, music, and color. Kids painted on canvases spread across the pavement. Parents took photos, and volunteers handed out flyers that read, "Kindness is contagious." Lily stood near the main stage, her hands splattered with paint, eyes shining as she watched the crowd. Ethan was on the other side of the plaza, talking to a reporter, smiling the kind of smile that came from purpose, not privilege. Everything felt perfect, almost too perfect. Then, in an instant, perfection shattered. A loud crash echoed from the far end of the square, tires screeching, metal folding into metal. People screamed. Lily turned just in time to see a black sedan spin out, slamming into a streetlight near the fountain. The world froze. "Ethan!" someone shouted. Her heart dropped. He had been standing only a few feet from there seconds ago. She ran. Through the chaos, through the sirens that hadn't even arrived yet. When she reached the fountain, she saw him lying near the wreckage, his white shirt streaked with blood, eyes half open but conscious. "Ethan!" she cried, falling to her knees beside him. "Don't move, please. Help is coming." He tried to smile. "Guess. I'm not great at staying out of trouble." "Don't talk like that," she whispered, gripping his hand. "You're going to be fine." "I'm sorry," he said weakly. "The car came out of nowhere. His voice cracked, breath shallow. "Don't let this stop what we started." Tears streamed down her face. No. You're not going anywhere. Do you hear me? You still have to finish our mural." Paramedics arrived moments later, their voices quick and professional. Lily's world blurred into flashing lights and sirens as they lifted Ethan onto a stretcher. She climbed into the ambulance beside him, refusing to let go of his hand. The ride to the hospital felt endless. Machines beeped, nurses shouted codes she didn't understand. She sat in the waiting room afterward, her clothes stained with paint and blood, praying, something she hadn't done in years. Hours passed before a doctor appeared. "He's stable," the doctor said softly. "A concussion, a few broken ribs, but is lucky to be alive." Lily's knees gave out with relief. When she finally saw him, he was pale but breathing, hooked to monitors, a faint smile tugging at his lips when he saw her. "You look terrible," he teased weakly. She laughed through her tears. "You're one to talk." For a while, they said nothing, just listened to the rhythm of the heart monitor, that fragile proof of life. Then Ethan whispered, "Promise me something." She leaned closer. "Anything. If I can't do this anymore, if my dad makes me stop, you keep it going. Don't let the world forget what one small act can do." She shook her head, clutching his hand tighter. "We'll do it together. You and me. Always." And for a moment, the pain didn't matter. It was just two souls bound by something bigger than fear. A week later, Ethan was discharged. The accident had left scars, but it also left clarity. Life was fragile, fleeting, and that made it worth fighting for. He and Lily decided to hold a second event, this time not just about art, but about gratitude. The theme was every second counts. During the opening speech, Lily took the stage. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from love. "A few weeks ago, I almost lost my best friend," she began. "It reminded me that kindness isn't just about what we give, it's about the time we share, the moments we don't waste." She looked at Ethan in the front row, smiling through tears. "He once told me that small acts can change the world. I didn't believe it then. I do now." The audience rose in applause, not the thunderous kind, but the kind that feels like a heartbeat, slow and real. If you believe love still wins, comment Amen. Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. Later that night, they sat beneath the mural they painted together, the silver tray now lit by fairy lights. Ethan turned to her. "You know, sometimes I think the universe pushed us together on purpose." Lily smiled softly. "Maybe it did. Maybe kindness isn't random. Maybe it's fate wearing simple clothes." He laughed quietly. "If that's true, I hope fate keeps showing up hungry." She nudged him playfully. "Always." And as the night breeze whispered through the city, they both knew their story. The broke girl and the kind billionaire had become something greater than either of them. But fate still had one final page left to turn, one that would demand not just their strength, but their hearts. Winter crept slowly over the city, wrapping the streets in pale mist and soft breath. The Silver Tray project had grown far beyond what either of them imagined. Murals in different countries, charity drives, art schools reaching out for partnerships. But fame, even when born from kindness, has a way of testing the heart. Ethan began receiving offers, international speaking tours, TV interviews, sponsorship deals that promised millions. Each offer came with the same condition: step into the spotlight alone. Leave the story of the broke girl behind. He refused them all, until one offer came that wasn't about money. It was about legacy. A global foundation proposed merging with the Silver Tray, funding art centers for underprivileged youth worldwide. But to make it happen, Ethan would need to move abroad for at least a year. When he told Lily, she went quiet. They were sitting under the same oak tree where their story had begun. The leaves had fallen, the branches bare, like the world holding its breath. "So, you're leaving," she said softly. He looked down. "Not leaving, expanding, for both of us." "But you'll be gone," she whispered. "And everything here, it'll feel empty." He reached for her hand. "Lily, this isn't goodbye. This is what we dreamed of, helping more people, painting more hope." She nodded, but her eyes shimmered. "I know. I just didn't realize dreams could hurt this much." For a while, they said nothing, just the sound of wind brushing through the dry grass. "I'll write to you," he promised. "Every week. I'll call when I can. And when I come back, we'll paint the biggest mural the city's ever seen." She smiled faintly, trying to be strong. "You better, because if you don't, I'll paint over every wall until I find you." They laughed, but both felt the ache beneath the humor, the kind that only goodbye can carve. The day Ethan left, the whole community gathered at the airport. Students, teachers, volunteers, even Richard Cole, whose proud smile hid a father's tear. Lily stood apart from the crowd, clutching a small envelope. As Ethan hugged her goodbye, she slipped it into his hand. "Open it when you need to remember why you started," she said. He nodded, eyes glistening. "I'll miss you." "You better," she whispered. "Now go change the world." When his plane disappeared into the clouds, Lily stood alone at the window, heart full and breaking all at once. Months passed. Letters came, long, thoughtful, full of stories about children in villages painting with broken brushes, about hope that refused to fade. Each one ended the same way. "The world still remembers your kindness, Lily, and so do I." But one week, the letters stopped. Then two. Then a month. Lily's chest grew heavy with worry. She called, emailed, waited, nothing. Until one morning, a package arrived at her doorstep. Inside was a single canvas, folded with care. When she opened it, tears filled her eyes. It was a painting of the cafeteria the first moment they met. But this time, she wasn't the only one holding a tray. Ethan stood beside her, both of them sharing the same meal under a sky of color. At the bottom, in Ethan's handwriting, were the words, "Even if I'm gone, kindness remains." Her knees gave out. She clutched the painting to her chest and sobbed, realizing what the news report later confirmed. The Foundation plane had gone down over the Atlantic during a storm. There were no survivors. The world mourned a young philanthropist. But Lily didn't want a headline. She wanted her friend back. For weeks, she didn't paint. Couldn't. Until one evening, she stood before a blank wall in the city plaza, the same one where the accident had happened months ago. She dipped her brush into silver paint and began to draw. Stroke by stroke, she painted their story, the cafeteria, the smiles, the rain, the art, the pain, the hope. People gathered silently, some crying, others praying. When she finished, she stepped back. The mural glowed under the streetlights, two figures sharing a meal beneath words that shimmered softly. Kindness never dies. It only changes hands. She touched the wall, tears streaming. "You kept your promise, Ethan," she whispered. "Now I'll keep mine." From that day, Lily continued their work, teaching, painting, and reminding others that kindness isn't about grand gestures, but about small moments that echo forever. If you believe love still wins, comment, Amen. Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. Her story, their story, traveled farther than she could ever imagine. People wrote from all over the world, telling her how the Silver Tray Project had changed them. And every night, before locking up her art studio, Lily would look at the sky, whispering softly to the stars, "We did it, Ethan. We really did." The final mural she painted was simple, just a single silver tray reflecting a sunrise. Beneath it, she wrote one last line, the moral of their story. You don't need to be rich to change a life. You just need to notice someone who's trying to survive. And in that quiet truth, the broke girl and the kind billionaire live forever, not in wealth, not in fame, but in every heart that still believed kindness could change the world.